So this second section, I just want to get through this really quickly. During his time, this time in his life, Tim is staying at the Tip Top Lodge, trying to learn about himself. This is what the whole section is about. So he's trying to learn about himself and understand what it is that he truly wants to do. He met the elderly hotel owner and and manager Elroy, someone that seems very silent, speaks very few words, but he's also very wise. He's very smart. He is a man that uses few words to get his point across, and without asking directly any information about Tim and why he is at the hotel, he understands that Tim is troubled, scared, and he's running from something. So over the course of a few days, Tim starts to open up. He starts to tell Elroy more about himself and slowly share details of his life to the old man, Elroy. And the man just silently listens and occasionally gives a few words of advice that make Tim think more about what to do. So Tim is very lost in his own mind and he's not sure what he should do. He's scared, both about fighting in the war and running away from the war. So he's got this old man. It's basically the wise old man that he talks to that gives him advice, and he speaks in like very few words. And the few words that he does say is like, oh my goodness, like it really makes Tim think so much. So we are on this part here now. Again, I really hope you. It is actually a very nice story. Reading it doesn't take very long. It's a very nice story. Okay, so from lines 228 to 260. For this section, this is the beginning of their relationship. So they start playing games together. Tim and Elroy are like playing like Scrabble or chess together. They start hiking in the forest. They start eating all of their meals together. But they don't really talk a lot about why Tim is really there. They sort of talk about each other, but they don't talk about why Tim is actually there. Elroy treats him as if he were like a stray animal looking for shelter, without asking many questions and respects his privacy. But because of the overall sort of attitude of what was going on in the country, Elroy is aware of the reason why he might be there. So Elroy is a very old and very wise man. He would say very few words to Tim, and with those few words, he would make Tim think hard about himself. How would you, this again, if you see a question here, just think it to yourself and kind of answer to yourself. For the next section, Tim begins thinking seriously about the consequences of his decision. So what might happen to him if he seriously crosses the border into Canada, and how confused is he about his emotions? So he has all these different thoughts going on in his head, like this section here. He has all of these different thoughts going on in his head. One thing I knew for certain, I was in desperate trouble, and he wouldn't talk about it. The wrong word or the right word, and I might have just disappeared. Like he's basically saying, if this man Elroy said the right word or the wrong word, I would just up and leave. Like that's scared. He's very confused. So for the next section, as more time passes between Tim and Elroy, Elroy begins to show signs of being curious and asking Tim what exactly the trouble is. However, he doesn't directly ask him. So he sort of hints at, if you need any help with anything, I'm here, but he doesn't say what's wrong. He just sort of hints at it. He lets him know if you need someone to talk to, you can talk to me, but he never directly says, tell me what's going on. So the two of them spend a few days working together and doing chores. They do like work to clean up around the inn. Tim gets the feeling of comfort from Elroy, while also being happy that he still doesn't know the details of his life. So Elroy continues to do work silently while Tim still just continues to think. They're doing chores, they're working, they're painting old doors, they're fixing old cabins, or they're fixing part of the building, they're cleaning up whatever is going on. So basically Tim just starts working with Elroy and for Elroy while he's staying at his hotel. And then in these lines, the relationship between Elroy and Tim starts to develop more and more. And eventually, Tim begins to open up to Elroy and about himself without being directly asked to. So Elroy doesn't, tell me about yourself. Tim just starts talking about himself. He tells him about his job at the meat factory and how he felt about it while the two of them are discussing the cost. Tim is staying at a hotel, so he has to pay for the hotel. And he basically, Tim is telling Elroy, I didn't get paid a lot of money. And Elroy's saying, well, you have to pay for this. So as an act of kindness, Elroy tells Tim that he should be paid for the work that he has helped him with around the hotel. It is obvious to Elroy that Tim doesn't have much money and is obviously in need of some help. So he offers to pay him a wage that is worth more than the amount he was charging him for the room. So basically, Elroy says, look, I was going to charge you this much for the room, but because of all the work you did with me, I'm going to pay you this much. So he said he was going to charge him like $240 for the room, but you've worked with me, so I'm going to give you $350 or something. So he gives him money. He's telling him to give him money. Tim doesn't want to take the money, so he tells Elroy that the work should simply cover the room and there would be no debt. So basically, he says, no, don't pay me. The work should just even out for me staying here and eating your food. So Tim leaves and goes into the town for a bit and returns to find an envelope full of cash, full of money from Elroy that just says emergency money on it for him. So without knowing too many details about Tim's life, Elroy has been able to make Tim think about his emotions by simply helping him and being around him in his time of need. So Tim considers Elroy to be like his savior, the person that saves him, the person responsible for saving his life. And then these questions are part of the revision, but again, we'll go over this for the second session. For this last part, Tim starts reflecting and is thinking about his past. And he's reflecting on the time of his life. In this brief little passage, he's thinking about this time of his life in the future, 20 years in the future. So the story is meant to be like sort of a memory written by Tim. So it's written by Tim in the future, and he's thinking about this time, and how it shocks him how he is still able to describe exactly how he felt at that time, and how important Elroy was to him at that time. So he has a feeling of this time being something that was real, but didn't seem like it was happening to him. It seemed like he was watching a movie. He felt like he was watching like a movie.